I'm going to start with my dental disclaimer. My dentist dental work is such a mess that I'm sitting in the dark on purpose so you can't see me. How's that? You can't hear me too well because my voice isn't too good either, so this ought to be a really, really good video. Okay, we're going to talk about French bread, if you can stand that. French bread typically I think has no fat in it. This recipe has no fat in it. I sent it out to everybody who is signed up on the channel, 470 of you as of yesterday. Actually, it was early this morning between 4 and 5 a.m. that I was preparing that. You don't have to like my recipe for French bread, but this is something you really should try at least once. You cannot screw it up. There is a separate video which I tried to start listening to and I wasn't too happy with it. I used to be happy with it, I'm not anymore. And it's Great Depression video 5 is about the French bread. It's really not about the French bread, but I think I put the recipe there on audio, and I will see if I can copy and paste it on this video below. But it's on the feed section of this channel for April 22nd. Yesterday was my mom's death date, and I don't know if it was 3 years or 4 years. I have to figure that out. But April the 22nd was the day she died. So April 22nd should have the recipe with the details under feed. Now, this is the reason I want to talk about this for a second. If you've never made bread before, you might be intimidated by it. It's nothing to be intimidated by. I have had a lot of problems over the years trying to make a decent loaf of wheat bread out of whole wheat. And I knocked my silly head against the wall trying to figure out why until I talked to an expert in Salt Lake who works for the church. And it's the temperature at which the temperature at which the wheat was stored. If the wheat gets too warm, it will actually destroy the gluten's ability to work in the bread, which is why sometimes you get a whole wheat loaf of bread that comes out like a brick. And so no matter what I did, pretty much almost every loaf of bread that I ever made from real whole wheat was a disaster. And I don't have problems cooking and baking, but I just couldn't manage that. I will recommend a Bosch BOSCH bread mixer because I've used them. And I have a girlfriend who's wanted one all her life and finally sprung for it and paid the money and got it. And she said it was worth the wait, it was worth the money. Great machine. I don't think it has a rival, really. Not in my book. I borrowed one time from a friend and used it. Now back to the French bread. What has this got to do with preparedness? If you have never made bread before, you might be intimidated. This is a completely foolproof recipe. It's a no-fail recipe. You can the reason I sent the bulletin out last night was because I made this French bread dough on Monday of last week. Then I had my dental work done Tuesday, and it was fine. I recuperated just fine, but I did not use the French bread. That the dough, I gave some away to other people, three other people. Sometimes I make it and give it to neighbors. This French bread dough that I had left, I just took the pot and threw it in the bottom of my refrigerator. That was Monday of last week. On Friday of last week, I thought, uh-oh, there wasn't a lot of it. It was enough to make 4 nice-sized individual loaves that were about yay big. That's pretty good representation, about that big. So the kind, you get them in a restaurant, and I need to make this short so it will publisher. It's going to be toast too, but at any rate, the dough was sitting in my refrigerator from Monday until Friday, and I just took it and had a little bit of butter on my hands and patted it into shape. Threw it in my little convection oven, just barely warm. Let it rise till it was nice and about double, about puffy, puffy, about double. And then I baked it on about 350 for the little loaves. I don't think you have to do them more than about maybe 10, 12, 14 minutes at the most. I don't think it's more than that. Especially might be longer if you're not using a convection oven. It might be 15, 17 minutes. The full size loaves go about 22, 24 minutes. The full size loaves. You can break this recipe down into 2 or 3 standard size loaves, which are going to be about yay big. If you see, that's like the right and left side of the loaf. You should be able to fit 2 to 3. You should be able to fit the whole recipe on a full size cookie sheet. If you have a full size oven, if you don't have a full size oven, you're not going to want to do that. You're going to want to divide the recipe into 3 or 4 loaves and put it on a smaller cookie sheet. Once you make the bread dough up, you can shape it into loaves. I put this on the other video, I'm sure. Spray it with cooking spray, or put butter on your hands and shape it. And cover it in foil or plastic and put it in the freezer. Then you're going to want to take it back out after 45 minutes or so and start smacking it. Just smack the loaf so that any rise goes down. You don't want to store it partially risen. I'm trying to think what it was I was going to say. But the thing that just astounded me was that it sat in the bottom of my fridge for 5 days. I've never left it sit that long. I've left it sit a day or 2 or maybe 3, but never 5. And it was covered with a moist towel. And so you could conceivably make up a batch of bread dough on Monday and make yourself some little individual loaves or some breadsticks or whatever you want to out of it. You're going to need probably a good 90 minutes to accomplish that, for it to warm up to room temperature. Even if you put it in a lukewarm oven, you don't want the oven hot. Lukewarm oven, a little bit more than lukewarm. Nowhere near 200 degrees. You don't want to get near 200 degrees. You could conceivably have fresh bread all week, probably till at least Saturday. And that's amazing to me. I always knew you could freeze the dough, but I did not realize that it was hold the yeast's ability to continue to, grow and ferment and make the bread rise that long. That is, it's not the Herman type, the Herman cake things you mix up. It's not the sourdough type idea. I'm afraid that I let this go. It's not going to publish, but and I didn't do the job on it I wanted to. I completely apologize. That is really exciting stuff. This recipe is exciting to start with. It's exciting. It's exciting because if you buy decent flour, you're going to get a really nice loaf of bread. If you buy budget flour, you're going to get a really tasty loaf of bread, but not as tasty as if you spend some money on the flour. My very favorite flour is Spartan, Spartan, sold by the Spartan stores. I think they're centered in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Could be wrong. I hope this thing publishes. I better quit. But there are lots of other great bread flours. You can use all-purpose flour. It works just great. If I left anything out, I can put it in later. Try this bread, and you will have great confidence that you can make wonderful bread for your family anytime. And the confidence is what you're really looking for.